lost on radio frequency, gone. The officer at the National Security Center was anxiously checking the screens. The president's GPS signal suddenly cut off. At that very moment, deep in the Sahara, Ibrahim Traore was standing beside his overturned military jeep. The sandstorm had damaged the devices, destroying his sense of direction. The young officer next to him was severely injured. "I cannot leave you here, Mr. President," said the officer. "Go, call for help." Traore shook his head. A leader never leaves his men behind. As the vast starry sky stretched above them, drum sounds began to come from the distance. "Someone is approaching," said Traore, preparing his weapon. The inspection visit to the North Sahel region had begun as a routine mission. Ibrahim Traore had set out with just one captain and a young lieutenant to inspect the border outposts and boost the morale of the soldiers. Protocol required a larger convoy, but Traore didn't care for such things. "If you want to see the truth, you must go without crowds," he had told his security chief. After visiting the last outpost, on the way back, a storm broke out in the middle of the Sahel desert. The sky suddenly darkened. The sun was swallowed by a brown cloud. The wind intensified, the sands rose. "Should we return to the outpost until the storm passes, Mr. President?" the captain had asked while at the wheel. "No," Traore had said. "Let's continue returning to Ouagadougou. These kinds of storms can last for hours. We can't wait." This decision would later appear to be a mistake. The storm intensified. The GPS signal weakened. They tried to use the compass, but the magnetic field seemed distorted. A few hours later, deep in the desert, the jeep suddenly lost control while crossing a sand dune and overturned. Now, in the darkness, Traore stood beside the wounded lieutenant, waiting for the storm to subside. As the drum sounds grew closer, the lieutenant whispered fearfully, "Who are they, Mr. President?" "I don't know," said Traore, "but there are dangerous groups in this region. Keep your weapon ready, but don't fire first." As minutes passed, the drum sounds came closer. Finally, from behind a sand dune, a group of people illuminated by torches appeared. Men in blue navy clothes with covered faces were advancing, riding camels and walking. "Tuaregs," Traore murmured, "warriors of the desert." As the group approached, an older man stepped forward. His face was partially exposed, full of deep wrinkles and sharp gazes. He said something in their language. Traore knew a few words of the Tuareg language. He had learned them years ago during his military training. "We come in peace," he said, raising his hand. The old man was surprised. "You know the Tuareg language?" he asked, this time speaking in French. "Just a few words," Traore replied. "We are Burkina Faso soldiers. We had an accident. My friend is injured and we need help." The old man examined Traore and the lieutenant. "Your uniforms are different. You are not an ordinary soldier." Traore hesitated. Revealing his identity could always be risky, especially in this remote region. "He is President Traore," said the lieutenant, groaning with pain. "Ibrahim Traore, the leader of Burkina Faso." A wave of whispers spread among the Tuaregs. The old man narrowed his eyes, looked more carefully. "Is this true?" Traore nodded. "Yes, and as a leader, I am obligated to bring my soldier safely home. Can you help us?" The old man thought for a while, then nodded. "Our tribe's camp is a few kilometers away. We will take your injured friend there. We have healers." Traore watched the stretcher brought to carry the lieutenant. "Thank you. We are indebted to you." The old man studied Traore with deep gazes. "Not to us, to the rules of the desert. In the desert, even enemies help each other. Otherwise, no one survives." Upon arriving at the Tuareg camp, Traore was surprised. This wasn't a nomadic camp. It was a settlement consisting of semi-permanent structures. Stone and mud brick buildings, fabric tents, fire pits. In the center of the camp was a tent larger than the others. They carried the lieutenant to a tent. An old woman immediately began treating him with various herbs and ointments. Traore wanted to stay with the lieutenant, but the old man stopped him. The healer must be alone while doing her work. Come, let's talk by the fire. Though reluctantly, Traore followed the old man. Around the fire in the center of the camp, tribe members were sitting, waiting for them. They showed Traore a place to sit. "My name is Amani," said the old man. "I am the leader of this tribe, and you, Ibrahim Traore, are the leader of Burkina Faso. It's an interesting coincidence that the desert has brought you to us." "Coincidence?" asked Traore. "Or was it an accident?" Amani smiled slightly. "There are no coincidences in the desert, young leader. Everything happens for a reason. Perhaps there is a reason why the winds brought you here." Around the fire, tribe members watched Traore with respect and curiosity. One of them, a middle-aged man, took the floor. "We receive news from your country, Ibrahim Traore. You are making big changes. You expelled the French. You are charting your own path." Traore was surprised. "How can you receive news here in the middle of the desert?" Amani laughed. "The desert may be silent, but news spreads like the wind. Tuaregs are everywhere, in many countries, and we listen." Traore was thoughtful. "I had never heard of your tribe. You are not officially registered in Burkina Faso." "We don't care about borders and papers," said Amani. "Our ancestors lived on these lands long before the Europeans came, and we will live here after the Europeans are gone." As the night progressed, Traore chatted with the Tuaregs on various topics: politics, history, culture. Amani and his men were knowledgeable, thoughtful. They had deep views on the influence of Western powers in Africa. "You are different, Ibrahim Traore," Amani said at one point. "You are not like other leaders. They were puppets of the West. But you are charting your own path." "I'm just trying to do what's right for my people," Traore said humbly. "And what is right?" asked Amani. Traore thought. "Independence, making our own decisions, controlling our own resources, determining our own destiny." Amani nodded in approval. "Wise words, but dangerous words. It is not easy to challenge the West." "I know," said Traore, "but we have no other choice. Either we shape our own future or others will do it for us, and their plans are not for our benefit." Amani looked at Traore for a long time, then threw a handful of herbs into the fire. The flames suddenly began to burn brighter, more blue. "Listen to me, young leader," said Amani, his voice now deeper, more authoritative. "My ancestors lived on these lands for hundreds of years. We have seen the rise and fall of empires, and now I will offer you a wisdom." Traore noticed that Amani's eyes had changed in the mysterious light of the fire. They were looking brighter, sharper. "True power does not come from weapons," said Amani. "True power comes from the hearts of the people. If your people truly support you, you can face even enemy armies." "But is this enough?" asked Traore. "The West has technology, money, influence." "The West's power comes from your weaknesses," said Amani. "From your fears, your divisions, your greed. Overcome these weaknesses and the West's power dissipates like vapor." Amani reached his hand into the fire, but it didn't burn. He took a small object from inside the flames, something that looked like an ancient medallion. "This is a legacy from our ancestors," he said, extending the medallion to Traore. "We call it the Eye of Truth. When the time comes, it will show you the truth." Traore hesitantly took the medallion. It had strange symbols and an eye shape on it. "Thank you, but I cannot accept this. This must be your sacred item." "It is yours now," said Amani. "The desert did not bring you here without reason, Ibrahim Traore. Your path will change the destiny of many people, and our ancestors know this." The next morning, Traore went to the lieutenant's tent. The young man looked better. His color was beginning to return. "Did you sleep well, Mr. President?" asked the lieutenant. "Yes," said Traore, but the truth was different. Throughout the night, he had thought about Amani's words and the mysterious medallion. He had only been able to sleep briefly towards morning. The healer woman applied a final ointment to the lieutenant's leg and changed the bandage. "He will recover in a few days," she said. "The fracture wasn't as bad as we thought." Traore thanked the woman. "When will you send us away?" he asked. "Are you in a hurry, Ibrahim Traore?" Amani entered the tent. "Outside, your people have come looking for you." Traore's heart leaped. "My soldiers?" "Yes, by helicopter. They are near our camp right now." Traore looked at the lieutenant. "I will ask them to send a stretcher for you. Then we can go with them." Amani shook his head. "No, young leader, you will go with them. The lieutenant will stay with us until he fully recovers." "But," Traore wanted to object. "We will take good care of him," said Amani. "You must return to your country. Others might be trying to gain power in your place now." Traore thought of some power centers in the capital. "You might be right," he said. "And remember," said Amani, pointing to the medallion, "when the time comes, look at the eye of truth. It will show you the right path." Traore thanked Amani and the tribe members. After promising care for the lieutenant, he left the camp. A few kilometers away, the rescue helicopter was waiting for him. The pilot was relieved to see Traore. "Mr. President, we're so glad to have found you. You've been missing for almost 24 hours. The whole country was worried." "We found shelter in the middle of the desert," said Traore, looking back towards the direction of the Tuareg camp. However, to his surprise, he could only see dunes and empty desert. The camp had become completely invisible. "Is there a problem, Mr. President?" asked the pilot. Traore felt the medallion in his pocket. "No," he said slowly. "Everything is fine." When he returned to Ouagadougou, Traore encountered a situation as he had thought. Vice President Philippe Zongo was preparing a military coup. However, Traore's unexpected return disrupted the plans. "We're glad you're back, Mr. President," said Zongo with a fake smile. "We almost thought we had lost you." "Did you, Philippe?" said Traore in a calm voice. "Or did you hope so?" Zongo's face paled. "I don't understand, sir." "You do understand," said Traore. "During my disappearance, you've had some meetings that my sources know about, with some embassies, with some high-ranking soldiers." Zongo stammered. "I was just trying to ensure governance in a crisis situation." "Of course," said Traore in an ironic tone. "And these efforts were, I'm sure, entirely within constitutional limits, weren't they?" "Mr. President, there's been a misunderstanding." "Listen, Philippe," said Traore, lowering his voice. "I'm not having you arrested right now, because our country needs stability, but you should know that my eyes are on you. And before you take your next step, think very carefully." Zongo anxiously bowed his head. When Traore returned to his office, he examined the medallion he took from his pocket. Amani's words echoed in his mind. True power comes from the hearts of the people. That evening, he decided to give a speech on national television. However, no written texts were prepared. No meetings were held with advisors. Traore would speak from the heart directly to the camera, to his people. "My dear citizens," he began, "I spent the last few days deep in the desert. I was stranded after an accident, and there, in the middle of the desert, I received one of the most valuable lessons of my life." The cameras showed Traore sitting at a simple table in a plain room of the palace. Instead of his military uniform, he wore traditional Burkina Faso clothes. In the desert, while alone, I thought about our country, our future, our challenges, our hopes, and I realized this. We, the people of Burkina Faso, despite all our differences, are a family, and like a family, we must support each other. Traore took the medallion from his pocket and showed it to the camera. "This is a gift I received from a wise man living in the desert. He reminded me where true power comes from. Power does not come from weapons, money, or external forces. Power comes from the unity, determination, and belief of the people." Even the cameramen and technicians in the studio were affected by Traore's words. The president, who was normally formal and distant, was now sincere, forthright, and emotional. My dear citizens, from today on, we are turning a new page. There will be a more transparent, more participatory governance. People's assemblies will be established in every village, every town, every city. Now decisions will be made not just by the capital, but by the people themselves. Traore's speech resonated greatly throughout the country. The next day, thousands of people poured into the streets, not for protest but for support. People wanted to respond to the president's call. Felipe Zongo and other names in the coup plan became isolated overnight. The people had clearly shown whose side they were on. A week later, the first People's Assembly was established in the region where Traore had been lost in the desert. Traore, who personally attended the ceremony, spoke about the wisdom lessons from the desert. The Tuareg tribes, he said, have lived on these lands for hundreds of years. Colonizers came and went, but they stayed, because they understand the true spirit of the land. And we should be like that too, not forgetting our roots, but striving for progress. At the end of the ceremony, from a distance, a group of people in desert attire were seen approaching. Amani and his tribe had come to attend the ceremony. Traore greeted them with an embrace. "I kept my word, Ibrahim Traore," said Amani, smiling. "We healed your lieutenant and brought him back." Indeed, the young lieutenant had come with the Tuaregs. His leg had completely healed. He wasn't even limping. "I don't know how to thank you," said Traore. Amani shook his head. "You don't need to thank us. You have already given us the greatest gift, hope. The existence of a leader like you, a true African leader, is the greatest source of hope for us." After the ceremony, Amani wanted to speak privately with Traore. The two leaders withdrew under a tree. "Did the medallion help you?" asked Amani. Traore nodded. "Yes, it reminded me of the true source of power, and now I'm striving to reach the hearts of my people." "Good," said Amani, "but the real purpose of the medallion has not yet emerged. When the time comes, it will show the truth." "What kind of truth?" asked Traore curiously. Looking into the distance, Amani said, "The West's true plans. They will never want to leave Africa free. They will always find new ways, new strategies. The medallion will help you see these plans." Traore looked at the medallion. It looked like a simple old piece of metal. "How?" "You will understand when the time comes," said Amani. "For now, focus on uniting your people, because a storm is coming, Ibrahim Traore. And to stand in this storm, you will need all the strength of Burkina Faso." A year after that fateful day when he was stranded in the desert, Traore had initiated a major reform movement across the country with the People's Assembly system. The influence of Western powers had decreased. The local economy had begun to revive. However, as Amani had predicted, a storm was approaching. France and its allies were disturbed by Traore's increasing independence policies. Economic sanctions, media campaigns, even assassination attempts. All kinds of pressure were being applied. One evening, while working alone in his palace, Traore suddenly felt the medallion heating up. When he took it out of his pocket, he saw that the eye symbol on the medallion had begun to glow. When he looked closely at the medallion, he saw clear images as if watching on a screen. Secret meetings, plans, maps. A new strategy prepared by Western powers to bring Burkina Faso back under control. "The eye of truth," Traore murmured. "I understand now." With this information, Traore took action to foil the West's plans. The next day, in his announcement to the people, he said, "We are under a new threat for our independence, but this time we are prepared, because now we see the truth." And so, a mysterious medallion given to a man stranded in the desert began to change the destiny of a nation. Traore, taking with him Amani's wisdom and the power of his people, led Burkina Faso's progress on the path to true independence. Deep in the desert, Amani and his tribe were watching the events from afar. "We chose the right leader," said an old tribe member. Amani smiled. We didn't choose. The desert chose, and the desert always knows.